right. Welcome to another episode of the Sober Heathen. Another great day today. I have another guest. A couple things before we get started. To hear this great story that's coming. A couple weeks ago, we had 2 interviews in the same week. Make sure you check those out if you like this interview. Those other 2 are great ones as well. Also, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. That always helps the channel grow. And find Sober Heathen on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and pretty soon I'm going to be on Rumble. It sounds like Rumble's a pretty happening place right now. It's growing. And I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to get everybody's story out and help people that are struggling with addiction. Also, something cool this weekend, hopefully finalizing a couple things. I want to do a contest for anybody that I don't want to get into too many details before I release it, but start thinking about somebody that you're proud of in recovery that's done a lot, either for you or it's a family member that you're proud of. We're going to have a little bit of a contest where you can write in to the podcast, tell a little bit about it. We'll pick a winner. And if you think these little chips, if you think the chips are cool that you get from AA, wait till you see that, man. You're going to freaking love it. It's going to be awesome. And I look forward to doing something cool like that for you guys out there, fighting the good fight. So enough of my babble. Today we have Gail. I don't know Gail a whole lot, so I'm really excited to hear her story. Today is a special day. I'll let her tell you what that special day is, but it's something that I can only dream about. I hadn't even fathomed this kind of special day, but it's a goal. So with no further ado, here is Gail M.
Okay, good morning.
Morning, Gail.
So, this morning, today, December 28th, 1988, I got sober, which is 34 years ago. Yeah, and I recall that day there were people, because I went to my first meeting, and there were people that were there that talked about 25 years, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no way. I'm just it, but they kept telling me, just today, just one day at a time. So here I am 34 years ago today. And I just want you to know the one thing that has held me at this date is because it was my dad's birthday. And my dad was the only one that ever looked at me and said, every time I see you or talk to you, you have a beer in your hand. And I went, oh no. And then later, after he passed away and I got sober on his birthday, I recall those words, which now mean something to me, but back then it meant nothing. Just like, oh no, Dad, you're wrong. I'm, whatever. But anyway, so it has held me all these years, because once you miss that date, then you'd have to wait a whole year again, whatever days that means. So you just stay sober for a date that means so much. And not everyone's going to have that opportunity, but I did, by the grace of God. So anyway, I'm going to get started with the questions. The first question Scott asked me was, with what I know now, do I believe that using is a choice? And I can say that alcoholism is a disease. And until you recognize that fact, you don't really have a choice. You're just an alcoholic drinking every day. But as soon as you find out, like go to a meeting, sit there and look at yourself in the mirror, then you understand, oops, this is where I am. This is what has happened to me. And now I have a choice every day. Do I drink or do I not drink? And so day one, that's when we say yes and we believe I'm an alcoholic. And then after that, my choice is, do I drink today or not? So for a lot of years, 34 years, I've said, not today, not today, not today. And I'm very old fashioned. And I realized this when I sat down with these questions. I'm very old fashioned about the program, about the 12-step program. I had to go Google them because it's so embedded in me that I kind of know the steps, but I don't know them. So that day, I admitted that I was powerless over alcohol. And so that's where I've been going every day. And I remind myself of that every day. I'm powerless over it. I can look at it and I can make a choice, but I can't drink today, cannot drink today. So whatever's in my life, whatever's happening, all the stuff that comes in front of you, you look at that and then you look at the alcohol and you go, this is my choice. I choose not to drink today. So you have to believe that so deep that it goes down to your toes, because life is not manageable if you choose the alcohol. So I'm really proud of that. But people that just do things on their own without the steps, you're going to be all over the place. I'm going to tell you, in my heart of hearts, you're not going to make it unless you do the steps, unless you put them in front of you, you look at them every day and really make choices, looking at the steps. So the next question is, how have your views on addiction changed since I've lived through 34 years? I would have to say that everything that I've faced, all of my realities from day one to today have changed. It's incredible. You get to a point, you might be working on your first step, you might be working on your fourth step, you might be working wherever you're at, but things change, and everybody's heard this. It's like peeling the layers off an onion. So true. So very true, because I'm telling you, I'm probably on my third onion because I've gotten to the core, and then something else brings me back to I'm powerless. This situation in my life has brought me back to that I'm powerless again, because death or whatever in life, just whatever life is put in front of you, there you are again. And you have to choose not to drink. I've had thoughts about, well, 34 years, I'm pretty sure I'm probably healed. And then I go, oh, welcome to step one, Gail. You have to choose today. You're powerless over alcohol. So it's just funny how that pops up. I just know in my heart of hearts that I don't get to, I don't get to drink. I never will. I never will. Not even if I were told, okay, today's your last day on this earth. Not even then would I decide that I could drink alcohol. So it's just incredible how strong I am because of the steps. And I know that as I walk my steps, and I know my power greater than myself is God. Not everybody has God, but whatever their power, greater power is, that my God has held me there, not myself. I'm just, when you think about even just looking at the word powerless, you have to go to something that's greater than you. If there isn't something greater than you, again, you're just a mess, just a mess. So I just have a deeper understanding, and I know when you study those words, not just the sit or the step, study that word powerless to really know what it means for you, really contemplate it. And I recall, days when we'd go to a meeting, because you do 90 days, 90 meetings in 90 days to really get a firm grip on your life. We would just pick a step and talk about it for an hour. Those are things that are just invaluable to getting to 34 years. My last chip, by the way, was a 30-year chip. So those are fun. They don't have the thrill that the 30, 60, 90 days did, or the 1 year, or whatever, but I did get a 30-year chip. So, and I don't even know where it is, but I've got it. So next question is, what would I say to someone who's in a similar situation? To where I was when I started on my journey. I don't care what your situation is. I would say the same thing. So like, get a big book. I don't care what part of life is put in front of you, whether it be drugs or alcohol or Al-Anon or whatever. Get the big book, get the steps, and start there, and don't mamby-pamby anywhere else. And a fun story that I recall back in the very, very beginning, I was standing at the coffee machine, great big, one of those great big tall aluminum, 40 cup, whatever. And there was an old guy, and he had one of those 20-year deals under his belt, and a young man who was, whiny, and I was just waiting to get coffee. And the young guy says to the old guy, well, 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 how do you do, how do you let go and let God? And that's one of our famous sayings. And the old man had a hot cup of coffee in his hand. He held the coffee up. I mean, it was scorching hot, and let go of it. He let go. It dropped to the floor, hot coffee everywhere. And he looked at the kid, and of course he cussed, and he said, like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. That to this day has such significance in my memory, that it was so graphic, so hot. So he didn't care if he made a mess. He did not care. He had to make a point. And now I'm that old timer, and
That's
I'm,
powerful. That's powerful, sir.
yeah. So, I can't believe it. I didn't know I'd get there, but here I am. And I'd probably say the same thing to someone, like, quit whining, quit crying. You're no worse off than the rest of us. This is what you do, and this is how you do it, and get it done. Quit being a crybaby. In today's world, we have all these politically correct things that we're supposed to say or not say. When it comes to drinking or drugging, there's no politically correct nonsense, because if you do, you're doing a disservice to that person whose life depends upon not drinking, not putting that in your mouth. So I'm an old timer now. So that's where I would say start. That's what I would say. That's what I believe. The best part for me, where I am today, the question is, what's the best part of being where I am? And because of my experience and what was the hardest, the best part is I have never gone back out. I have never had a drink of alcohol. And so I don't have to feel sad or shame or any of those feelings, and knowing that I failed. This is the one thing in my life that I have been 100% good at, perfect at.
I got, if you don't mind, I want to, it's something popped in my head, and I'd like to get your take on this, because I've noticed this with myself. I'm nowhere near you, but I'm doing the best I've ever did right now as far as days go. Because of the steps, I will say something even in a conversation via text or Facebook Messenger with my friends and loved ones, and I will say something that the old me, the alcoholic, would say, and then I'd be like, "Oh my God, I didn't mean that." because
Yeah.
I'm interrogating those thoughts every single time that I say it. And talking with one person in particular, she always says, "Look at you! You're catching yourself when you're saying this stuff." And so, I guess to add to that question, do you think you would be able to evaluate your thoughts and interrogate those things as well as you do today? Um, if you didn't have to go through the steps, if you didn't have this experience?
Oh, no, no, it keeps you so focused to 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 do the steps and go over them. I'm going to tell you that I, for the first 5 years, wrote out a 4-step, did a 5th step 5 years in a row, and I called it my jitter journal, because every year it was different. Every year it was better. It was deeper. There were things I remembered. So absolutely, it's like using the big book as your Bible. It's your everything. Bible for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too. Me too.
yeah, yeah.
I think writing this stuff down is crucial because there are some people that are scared with AA program about having to spill your guts to somebody. And I know that's
I'm
rough for some people, and you have to do it. But I think writing it out, and the important thing, I have so many journals that I'm never going to get rid of, that from being in treatment, that I'm going to reread them every year or more, because write in a journal to yourself and say the absolute truth in that son of a bitch, and then look at it and dissect it. And where's this coming from? What is the intent to these thoughts? Is it selfish? Is it not selfish? And it really truly was a great tool for me. I agree 100%.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's just nothing better, because if it's just you and that piece of paper, who cares what the hell's on there, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, and I have one fun story about looking at yourself, and things pop up, like you said, you're thinking, and then all of a sudden you go, whoa, dude, what was that? I remember I went home to see everyone, because I lived out in Denver. I got sober in Denver, and then 3 months later moved to Houston, and stayed there for 4 years. And I thought when I moved to Houston that I was going for a job. It was not a job. Lord just picked me up and moved me there because he set me down in the middle of this wonderful sobering community. And so I was immersed with friends and meetings and everything. But so I finally fly home, because I've written that first step, and or 4-step and everything, and I'm ready to go and make some amends and do some things. And so anyway, we go up north. We go into where like a store. It's a walk-in cooler, and one whole side of the cooler is all alcohol, beer, everything, and the other side is pop. And you have to walk in to get what you're going to have. So I very innocently walk in. I'm going to get a pop, and I look at the whole wall of beer, and without even, I mean, my brain instantly said to me, how are we going to drink all of that? And I'm like, oh, for God's sakes, Gail, you're sober. You aren't going to drink any of it. And there it was. There it was. I reminded myself, oh, okay. Yeah, maybe back in the day, would have thought, who in the world would think to drink the whole wall from ceiling to floor of all of that, exactly, all of that alcohol? And I went, and it was such an aha moment. I went, well, you are a real alcoholic, so you can think that, but you're not going to drink today. So yes, every thought, there's lots of times it's so automatic now after all these years, when I have thoughts, that I sit down and contemplate, now what is that, and why is that? And they're old alcoholic thoughts, because my brain is not going to change. I am chemically an alcoholic. My brain, my body, everything about me, is an alcoholic. I'm allergic to it. It's like having diabetes. You can't one day wake up and decide, well, I've been, practicing my diet for 30 years. I bet I'm not a diabetic anymore. Not true. Not true. I would go into a diabetic coma and die if I did that. So, and I guess that's really important that a person understand that. And a lot of people have trouble accepting the fact that they're diabetics and they have issues. So every day, every thought that is maybe crazy, if you say, if that, I don't know, there you are, you're just looking at what made you think that. And I don't anymore, I don't mind being with non-alcoholics, but when the Lord places a wonderful recovering alcoholic in my life, like just a few years ago, he did place a beautiful recovering alcoholic in my life, and I never dreamed, not in a million years. And it was just like I just melted into knowing her and having her be a part of my life. It was like a birthday present, like thank you, Jesus. Because we just, you click, you have the same thought process. There's something about the way we think that nobody else thinks. And so it's just like a warm, fuzzy teddy bear that you can hug, instead of a pillow at night. And we have become dear friends. And she helps me all the time, and I help her. So yeah, it's unbelievable how that connection is a feeling. It's a deep, embedded feeling, like that person understands me,
Right
So
on.
yeah. That I think that I don't know, I can honestly say I don't know there's been a bad part of this journey. I I was older when I got sober. I understood how bad things were, and the story is another day, another subject. But I embraced recovery and sobriety. I held on to it. I loved it. I've enjoyed every day. I thank God I'm an alcoholic because I know what's wrong. you
Sure.
know, I
Sure.
know I know why I do what I do. And I just have to correct and stay in my lane. So I love being an alcoholic. I love because I have a lot of fun in life. I will tell you that my first days, weeks, months, whatever, I decided that I was going to have fun. So I did things that maybe a normal person might not be able to do. Like I found a young friend and we love to dance. So we went to bars, and I danced sober, and I was happy to be sober, and I didn't wake up with a hangover. I had a lot of fun. And to this day, I still have fun. So I, I'm happy to be, and I don't think there's a bad day. I have bad circumstances, bad things in my life, but I don't, yeah, I'm happy to be who I am. I embrace it. I love it. And if anybody gives me a hard time, well, then I'll rear up and, kind of get in their face. I'm not afraid to do that.
Sure.
And that's another thing. Um, I was sober about 3 months, and when I moved to Houston, I put myself into an outpatient, all female, 16-week recovery group out, so I could work and then go, I went every night,
Yeah.
5 nights a week. And so that really, and I decided then that I was going to be happy with who I was, and I still am. So, um,
Yeah. Just uh, boy, you're a lot of good stuff. When you say that you're glad you're an alcoholic, when I first heard those words, I'd hear speakers come in and say, "I'm a grateful alcoholic." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What the hell are you grateful for? Being in jail and puking and pissing yourself and all
Right.
these things that you go through. Why are you grateful for this? This just makes no sense to me. But the longer I go, the more I talk to people, I get it. I get it. I wouldn't be who I was today if it wasn't for what the program has taught me and what I had to go through to get here. And for those lessons, I am grateful. So I totally get it. And I just think anybody listening, when they hear that, especially if they're struggling or know somebody that's struggling, it's like, if he or she ever said that she's grateful for being alcoholic, then, screw them. You know what I mean? Like their
Right,
significant other, you know what I mean?
right.
But it can turn. Now you said that really no complaints. So it wouldn't be an honest interview if I didn't ask. So, like everybody, and maybe not everybody, but I have lost really good jobs. I've lost relationships with my kids, and they're only 10. Has there been anything like that through your experience
Oh.
that was hard?
Oh, yes. Um, yeah, my worst days as an alcoholic brought me to some terrible choices as a parent. Um, Nothing that I'm proud of. Would I change it? Nope. Um, I I walked away. My children were about maybe your children's current age, and I had to leave town. I had to get away. I had to do a geographic cure. Now, do they recommend that? No. But I was still drinking then. So um, I moved out of state. I left Michigan. I went to Colorado. I said to my children, I'm moving. You're welcome to come with me, or you're welcome to stay with your father. I'm giving you that choice. I can't be here. I had issues with parents and lost job, couldn't afford to feed them, things that a mom had to face. And I was, now remember, I was not sober then.
Sure.
So, but I still had to make that cure. So I go, I move, I leave them behind. Then my daughter comes and she's with me. And so we go through all these terrible years and terrible things. Children, my children are in their 50s today, and they are prodigals. They they're still in yesterday, and I'm way out here 34 years sober. They're still holding against me everything that I did back then, and I've come 34 years of, look, I did that. I was drunk. I was out of control. I didn't there was I made choices back then that I'm not proud of, but here I am today, and I've been here for you for all these years, and you're still mad at me. um I'm sorry. Yes. So today, I have two children that are still mad as hell at me, and spewing off at me or not talking to me, whatever their thing is. And I'm always there. I say, I'll talk about it. Let's get to where we're going. I'll tell you anything. You're right. That wasn't right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. How many times can you say you're sorry? But what about today? And they do not have a program, and I have a program. I don't have to feel guilty anymore because I have 34 years of walking through sobriety, making choices. I finally moved back about 30 some years ago, moved back to Michigan, and went to all of them. And I said, I'm here to make living amends. I'm here for you. I'm here. This is me. Nothing I can hide. I did it all. So let's get started. And they were very resentful. It was awful. I thought they'd be glad, but they weren't. They still aren't. So if you, as a child, want to hang on to that resentment and act like a baboon, then I guess you just have to do that. And I face that all the time. My son said to me one day, I had been home maybe about a year, and he goes, Mom, he goes, remember how they tell you to choose a sponsor that has something that you want? And he goes, well, if I were to have a choice of mothers, and choose a mother that had something you want, I wouldn't choose you. And that was that was such an eye opener to me. If I didn't have the basics of my sobriety, I would have buckled. I would have drank. I would have done all the things that you do because your son has now just really hit you between the eyes with some truth. And I just looked at him and I said, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. But guess what? I walk my walk with sobriety and I walk with God and I walk according to what he wants from me, not what you want. And so I'm sorry for your luck. And that hit him, his face turned kind of red and he could say nothing to me.
Yeah.
And to this day, he has an attitude.
Sure.
But I'm proud. I'm proud of me. You can't take that away from me. He was like let's see, what was he? He was 19 years old when I got sober. He's now 53. He turns 53 in 3 days or 2 days, December 31st. And he's still got a chip on his shoulder. He's been in the Navy, in treatment, and still not sober, thinks he's got a handle on it. You know what? I'd rather be Gail alcoholic than son alcoholic, because I've got a program, I've got the steps. And my daughter, she's resentful too. So yes, Scott, been there, done that. Those basic years, those basic steps, those, doing whatever you got to do to just hang on, you have to do it. I wouldn't do anything different. I would not do anything different. I know I made all those mistakes, but you don't walk through life on the right road, because I think if you say you've done everything right, you're lying.
You're full of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I've had time. I mean, it has not been easy. It's not easy. But
No,
yeah.
and I really appreciate you sharing that part about your children, because I know I'm not ignorant to the fact that even though my kids are only 10, and I was there every step of the way for the first part of their lives, but that first 4.5 years before I got divorced, they're not going to remember all those things, and it could end up in the future being where they hold on to this resentment. I mean, I've held on to resentment for my mother for a very long time myself.
Yep.
And we can't control what other people think, and that does not mean that we love our children any less. And I think that's very important for people to understand. What you're saying is, it has nothing to do with how much you care for them and what you would do for them and how much you love them. You can't control them, so you have to be okay with them being the way that they are toward you, because you can't change it. And by worrying about it and stressing about it, and all you're doing is punishing yourself more. So
exactly.
I think
that walk of shame is not worth it. And remembering what happens and what they say in meetings are that walk of shame. If you don't get rid of that, if you don't deal with that, if you don't become that happy person, you will drink. So you become happy, you accept who you are, you accept all your faults, all your warts, everything that you've done wrong. And then you look them in the eye and you go, you know what? I'm happy today. I'm happy to talk to you about it. I'm happy to walk through it. You can say whatever you want. It's not going to hurt my feelings. It's just going to help you. And then at the end of the day, if you're still mad at me, I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry, but this is your walk. And if you're strong and they see that and feel that in you, they're going to be better off. But you can't skate around it. You just have to be who you are. Right. And I had a lot of years of that. I did some real damage to those kids, but they've also not chosen to get sober today.
Sure.
So they're where they're at. I'm light years ahead in that regard, so I can stand there and look at them. So yeah, it's I've done.
Yeah. And I think more good words. You had mentioned words in the big book, and you're using a lot of them. You mentioned living amends. that's really the only way that we can change the people that we care about, their thoughts on us, is by them seeing it. Because as an alcoholic, sorry is just manipulation without change. We've wasted all our sorries. So saying those words mean nothing anymore.
Right.
So to have people see, when you're talking to them and you're being open and honest, and I got my big book open to it, how it works. And in the first paragraph, it says honesty the first 3 times. You're being honest with your children. You're being honest by sharing. Those are all important things. And I completely had a brain fart. I lost where I was going with that. But words are important. That's what it was. Words are important. So to say that this is what I did, that's what happened. This is where I'm going now. Nobody's going to change it. You can't change anybody else's feelings, no matter how hard you try.
That's right.
They're either going to want to be a part of your life or they're not, and there's nothing you can do about it. And like I said, you're just going to continue to punish yourself if you're not.
Right. I can honestly tell you that I am sitting here with 34 years under my belt, full of joy. And my children, they're barely speaking to me. They're over there with all their resentment and all their nastiness. I don't have those feelings. I feel sad for them. And I'm happy, and the Lord has restored everything in my life. I had to file bankruptcy. Things have just gone on and on and on and on and on for me, but I did one step at a time, one day at a time. Everything I have done, I was going to walk towards sobriety and don't drink today. And so when it's all said and done, God has been there for me every step of the way. One fun thing that I can tell you, about 5 years into my sobriety, I was in Houston. I finally had pulled myself together, went back to college, was headed to become a respiratory therapist. And so I finally had a free minute. So I went to a speaker meeting on a Friday night. And so they hadn't seen me for a while because I was full-time school, full-time work. And everybody walks up to me with this nasty look on there. Where have you been? And are you still sober? And then they asked me to be a 5-minute speaker. And oh yeah. So I get up and I, by gosh, tell them what I think of their attitude. I'm like, oh, really? I came in here 5 years ago. You told me I was going to get my life back. I got my life back. I'm going to college. I'm working full time. And you're asking me if I'm still sober? How come you aren't asking me, about my success? You should be ashamed of yourself. And I really gave it to them because, people they just assume the worst. And so I gave it to them. I couldn't help it.
You.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. I have to be happy with where I'm at. And if I work, and I'm not a selfish person by any stretch of the means. In fact, I'm probably more the other way, and I have to work on not being the scapegoat. That's what I'm
right.
My life. Yeah.
It's not selfish to defend yourself, and people like that drive me nuts.
Right.
People like that, they make it so hard for people coming into these meetings. They're already intimidated. You know what I mean? And you act like that. I mean, if there's a newcomer seeing that and then hearing your story, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Things pop into your mind, and there's stories that I tell often. But yeah, I just and when I moved back to Michigan, I stopped going to meetings. What I ended up doing, because I had lots of years by then, and I was really solid, I started just doing the church thing, which helped, solidify my program. Not to say that I left the program in my heart. I walk that every day, steps. But and not all church works for me. It's a very choice, thing that I do. But I'd have to say my higher power, God, has really helped me stay sober, because he's the one that really wanted me to be sober,
Sure.
So I have done that. And so I felt really honored to be able to get on today and step out and say, wow, it's been 34 years and here I am. And why am I successful? And it's because I really have a good foundation. but one that I can't ever leave. I'm not graduated. It's not
No,
like college.
no, that, yep,
Right. I'm
yeah, there's,
hoping for another 34.
heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was something else in the notes that I took. You had mentioned that, I believe that if you're truly an alcoholic or addict, you can't go back.
No.
There's no, because from my experience, and from the experience that others have shared with me, that it goes right back to where it was, no matter what. You might fool yourself for a day or two, but it will always go back to the way it was. So these stories that I hear of people with years and years of sobriety, and now they can go out to dinner and have a couple beers, or go golfing and have a couple beers. There was something else going on there. If you're truly an alcoholic, um, you have no defense against that first drink in the beginning. We do now. I'd like to say that I do. I probably need to put more time in before I say that. But you have that defense of that first drink. But also, like you said, in the big book says it's an obsession of the mind. That's where your mind went when you walked into that cooler. That obsessive part of your mind kicked in and said, "Ooh, how are we going to drink all this?" But you were able to navigate that because you put one drop in after that obsession takes over, then the allergy kicks in, and one's too many and a million's not enough, as they say all the time.
Right. Yeah, my gosh. Today I just love knowing that I can be who I am, as happy as I am, or walking through whatever shit that God's put in front of me. And I can do it sober. But never can I drink again. And I was told, Scott, that you not only do you go back to where you were, you actually, your disease continues to progress.
Yep.
So if I take a drink today, I take a drink into where now I would be 34 years down the road as a drunk, which would be dead.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be alive if I were still drinking. So
Yeah.
I always think, oh my God, that little bit that I might take would be worse, So
It's facts. It's facts. And
yep.
if I picked up today where I left off was in the hospital with a tube down my throat, hypothermia setting in with a 0.46 blood alcohol content.
Yep.
And that was after being on the floor for however long, and buying 2.5 gallons every other day. So
Yep.
dead for me as well. Yep.
Right, exactly. I remember just before, I mean, like maybe 1 day or 2 days before I got sober, I'd gone for the weekend with my boss and his family into the mountains, and we were driving back, and everybody jumped out of the car and gas station. I of course went, and I'm standing at the cooler and I'm looking at the alcohol. And at that point, I wasn't sober, but it was talking to me. It wanted me to buy that bottle. I mean, talking to me. I'm like, wow. And I couldn't buy it that day because my boss was the man that 12-stepped me. And so there was no way I could walk back out to the car with alcohol. That wasn't
Sure.
going to work. So yeah, but I don't need it today. I can dance and sing and jump and whatever and be crazy, happy, sober. I love being a sober person. I'm a lot of fun. And I'll tell you what I've done too, and I've tried sharing this with my grandchildren. And I have 3 great grandchildren now, but I've shared it with my grandchildren. My oldest is 33, grandchild, and I took her on a ride. Out in the car, and I'm like, this is who grandma is, this is who you are, it's genetics, what have you. And she's had trouble with alcohol, and she's still drinking, but she that can't drink like she used to, but she still gets drunk. And so it's all in my family. None of them are sober but grandma. So I still carry the torch. I haven't handed it off to anybody yet, but there's hope.
Yeah.
There's hope because they see me sober, It'd just be a real travesty for me to, have a drink and fall down. And then who would they look to? Because I know they look at, wow, grandma really is sober.
No, and like you said, imagine that walk of shame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what that walk is because I've walked it sober, and it's been a lot of hard work. And you put one step in front of the other and you just admit it. You admit it. You admit everything, like you admitted you were an alcoholic. So yeah, I did that. That was wrong, wrong. I can't do this. I got to get through it. I've done years of counseling. I am still in counseling, not full time. I have someone I can call. There isn't any tool in my toolbox that I don't still today use. I just went to my counselor maybe a month ago. I have lots of support people. I have everything in place. I am completely wrapped in a group of people that love me and know I'm a sober person. I'm a fun person. And if I'm having a bad day, I can talk about it. We can pray about it. We can, everything is still there in place so that I won't fall down, and make a bad choice. So this has been a great conversation, going back over all those years real quick. There's a lot of stories, but lots of fun. It's been fun because I decided to make it fun. Fun
Right.
and sober. Yep.
Fun
And
and
you
sober.
can, yep. And you can do that.
Believe it or not, you can have fun without a drink in your hand. I never believed it, but
Oh
here
yeah.
we are.
Yep. You just change everything.
That's
There
it.
isn't anything that stays the same.
Yep.
Like I said, I'm more than one onion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
The term they used in treatment a lot was, have you hit your bottom yet? And my counselor, John P. Duty, one hell of a guy, he always said, well, you hit bottom when you stop digging.
yes,
That bottom is you never hit that bottom because it can always go worse.
that's
You
right.
got to
That's
drop
right.
the damn shovel.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. I had back when I first got sober, the man that had 25 years that I looked up to, his name was AJ Oregon, and his favorite saying was, everything is all right already. And I would find myself through this whole 34 years saying that something would come up, and even though it was bad, I'd say, yep, but everything is all right already. So we have wonderful people in our lives, and wonderful sayings. There's
Yeah.
nothing better than the support you get with doing the steps and going to meetings and enjoying sobriety.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and you never know what that one thing is going to be that sticks with somebody, and I think that's why it's so important to do these podcasts. Even if 12 people watch one, maybe one of those 12 heard something that they could use. I know I remember one of the last speaker meetings that I went to in treatment. The guy was terrible. It did not keep your attention. I know you had to sit there for the hour. There was no getting up and leaving.
Right.
And I don't remember what he said, but he said something. He's like, well, I'll leave you with this. Literally the last sentence that he said. And I walked out of there like, well, that sentence alone was worth it.
Right.
So you never know what you're going to get. So.
Right. Well, in one speaker meeting, there was a priest that came in back in Houston, and what he said, it was hysterical. He said, they're coming to get me. Now that's hysterical. I can lay on the floor laughing about that right now. I know who they are, they were coming to get him for treatment.
Yeah.
And the way he said it, they're coming to get me. Just little things that just make you, laugh with joy, but you know who they are, it's whoever. Yep. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. You just hang on to every little piece that works for you and let go of the rest.
We're done. Well,
Yeah.
I enjoyed doing a little step 12 with you today, taking the message to other alcoholics
Yep.
and non-alcoholics. I mean, they need to hear the message too. So
They do. If anyone, I always used to wish that somehow non-alcoholics could have some kind of program like we do, because everybody has life, everybody has problems, but they don't know how to deal with it. They sort of just meander and, do whatever they do. But as an alcoholic, I get to use the 12 steps towards anything besides, as well as alcohol, to
Yep.
get through life. So I'm blessed. So yeah, it was a good day, good conversation. I hope and pray that someone hears just one piece of this and said, wow, if she can do it 34 years, maybe I can do it.
Right on. Well, I haven't done this yet, but I'm going to do it. I don't know if you ever heard of Harbor Hall. It's a fantastic treatment center that it took me 2 tries going through there.
No,
I'm the Sober Heathen page is on their page. I think I'm going to post the videos because I see a lot of people posting less relevant things. So I'm going to post our conversations on there, and they only have, I think, a max of like 12 women at a time. But maybe I've had 3 women on. My first 3 guests have been women, and I think that's huge because, you know, I think guys get off a little easier being drunks than women. I think they have a little harder time because the moms are supposed to be the hens or whatever.
right.
And I always felt bad seeing these women in there, and I should have felt a little bad for myself. What did you do to yourself? But I think it's very important, and I think there's a reason why my first 3 guests ended up being women. I feel I hope that someone out there that's a woman that's going through this stuff right now can hear your message, and Laura's and Crystal's, because all 3 of you guys have done fantastic. This has been awesome.
Right. I just, what I could say to any woman with children that's in that walk of shame, trying, hoping, having a hard time with sobriety, just do it, regardless of the effect that you've had on your children. Just do it, because it's so worth it in the end. Because once you get there and you can look them in the eye and say, man, I'm really sorry, but I'm sober today and I'll be sober the rest of my life. Just do it, so that they don't, well, my mom did this, that, and the other, and so that's an excuse, because we all use excuses. Just do it. It doesn't matter how bad it was. What matters is that we go forward and get sober. Yep, you can be the best mom in the world, today, if you get sober. You really can. Yep. Yep.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, this was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad Laura got us in contact with each other. Yeah, is there any final words before we do the big to-do, the big bye-bye?
No, no, this has just been really nice. I just hope and pray that 34 years is worth it out there for someone to hear that I've had a great journey.
Yeah.
It's been so difficult, but it's been so fun.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the absolute vital parts, I think, you're sober, you're happy, and everything isn't quote unquote perfect.
No.
You still have your children, and you wish things were different there, but you are happy, and it is possible to be happy and get through all the crap that you've been through. So I think that's a great message. You can hear it in your voice. You can hear the happiness in your voice, and I think that's the most important part. So
right. I would hate to be them in their 50s with a mother sober for 34 years and they're still drinking and blaming me. Are you kidding me?
Yep.
Get over yourself.
Yeah,
I'm dropping that cup of coffee, Scott.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna remember that. I might have to use that one day. I don't drink coffee. I might just have to go get a cup one day if I'm in a meeting and make a point. So
Yep, it's a good point. Yep, absolutely. No, goodbye. I thank you very much.
Yes, thanks, Gib. Congratulations on 34 years. That's freaking amazing. And thank you for your story and your time. And let's keep in touch.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.